Power Rangers in the 90s was the most popular kids show on television. You couldn't escape the hype around this show back then. It was like Beatlemania all over again. I mean, after a full season, they cemented themselves as an all-time superhero show, and it kept rising and rising so much they made a movie. Halfway through the second season of Mighty Morphin, Saban decided to take the cast and make a full-length film. Released by 20th Century Fox in 1995, 5 years before they started producing the X-Men movies. And the movie was fine. To be honest, it wasn't as epic or awesome as I thought it would be, but I think it's a fun film. How does it hold up 30 years later, however? Well, let's find out. I'm Rocko from Reviews, and let's dive in. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe because we upload videos just like this one on our Reviews channel. We start the movie with opening text talking about the premise of the show, and honestly, it's not needed. It's not like Star Wars where you have to set up the world. Here are the Power Rangers, here's their mentor, here are the villains. You can figure out the rest. We really open with our Rangers high in the sky, flying on a plane ready to skydive with the real heroes, Bulk and Skull. We have all the classic actors from the show, and they are joined by 3 new Rangers that joined up in Season 2. We have Steve Cardenas playing the Red Ranger Rocky, who retired from acting after Power Rangers. We have Karen Ashley playing the Yellow Ranger Aisha, who is a singer, producer, actress, and radio talk show host. We have Johnny Young Bosch playing the Black Ranger Adam, who is a super talented voice actor, his most notable role voicing Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach. Yes, if you haven't realized yet, Jason, Zach, and Trini are not here. Yeah, I think it's time to talk about it, for you see, pretty famously, halfway through Season 2 of Mighty Morphin, Austin St. John, Walter Jones, and Toei Trang all walked out on the show. The reason for this was because of pay. Before this movie, Power Rangers was non-union, so the actors weren't getting much money. According to Austin, he could have worked at McDonald's part-time and made the same amount of money. So the entire cast got together and talked about walking out. While initially they were all going to do it to try and get higher pay or out of this job, for personal reasons, JDF, Amy, and David all decided to stay, meaning the other 3 left. Now, I'm no one to comment on this since I have no idea what happened behind the scenes, but I want to say I don't think anyone was wrong in this scenario. I respect the 3 who left because it takes courage to stand up for yourself, especially when they were pulling long hours with low pay, but I also understand why the other 3 wanted to stay. They were getting a lot of acting experience most shows wouldn't give first-time actors. It was a job making money, and they had opportunities to do movies like this one. Actually, speaking of the 3 leaving, they were supposed to be in this movie, but they left before this. Walter Jones even saying he regretted not being in the movie. In the show, however, the characters had a decent send-off. Not great, but alright. There were about 6 episodes dedicated to making the 3 new characters, Rocky, Adam, and Aisha, into Power Rangers, and the storyline was pretty cool. Yeah, the 3 originals weren't there, and I wish there was some acknowledgement like, you'll do great, newbies, but hey, what can you do? Back to the movie, Bulk and Skull are about to jump out first, but Kimberly notes they aren't even wearing parachutes. Bulk and Skull are the funniest part of this movie, but unfortunately they are given the shaft, barely having any scenes or lines. The 6 Rangers dive out, and while it is a cool scene, it is just shouting, "Extreme!" at the kids in the audience. Anyways, they all land at the jump-a-thon thing, which was done to save the observatory. This is the weirdest way to run a charity. Having teenagers skydive for money? Leave it in the comments below if this was a thing where you grew up. And then we meet Fred, played by Jamie Croft, a decent actor, but the first big mistake of the movie. While watching this, I realized this movie was trying really hard to appeal to kids in the 90s and what kids like. You know, rock and roll, skydiving, rollerblading, gross goop. So it partook in one of the worst tropes ever, making a kid character the center focus. The idea creators say is to have someone the kids could relate to in the movie, and thus a kid character. The problem is that nobody is going to the Power Rangers movie to see Fred. I want to see the Power Rangers fighting bad guys and monsters. I don't care about some random kid in the slightest, and everyone watching agrees with me. We're never gonna see this kid again, so why is he getting so much screen time? The trope of shoving a kid character into the main storyline is thankfully dead, and for good reason. Now, I will say this subplot and Fred himself isn't annoying or overbearing, it is just completely unnecessary. Fred is a nothing 90s kid for other kids to put their personalities onto, like Bella from Twilight. Tommy is still a great guy though, as he talks to Fred and his dad while mentioning a comet driving through Earth. Back with Bulk and Skull, they just now jumped out of the plane as the other Rangers go rollerblading, because extreme! Heads up, maybe instead of extreme scenes, we could have had them fight a monster to introduce the Rangers' powers and show off their personalities. Nope, okay. Bulk and Skull managed to land in a construction site with some really enjoyable dialogue and jokes. Skull even telling a worker that he screwed up. The building is supposed to be over there. Can you imagine if someone spent weeks constructing a building just to be told they built it in the wrong spot? The construction worker cannot deal with this right now as his team found a seal. Being idiots, they open it up before calling an archaeologist, and a purple egg emerges. Power Rangers. Speaking of said team, they get a call from Alpha and Zordon, this time voiced by Robert L. Manahan, who played the character after David Fielding left. Alpha says they need to come back to the command center, and the big budget upgrade. The command center looks great. Alpha and Zordon also get visual and costume upgrades, as Zordon isn't just a blurry mess anymore. We can see his face finally. Zordon tells the story about Ivan Ooze, a villain who ruled the world 6,000 years ago and was almost finished building his Ectomorphicon Titans. And that is a killer band name. No one trademarked that, it's mine. He was stopped by a group of teenagers like the Rangers and sealed underground, but it has been uncovered and the Rangers need to stop him from escaping and finishing his Ectomorphicons. Back at the construction site, the villains from the show appear with awesome new costumes. We have Lord Zed, Goldar, and Rita, voiced by Barbara Goodson here, reprising a role from the first season. I am just so happy to see them, and hearing their voices just bring me joy. Sadly, like Bulk and Skull, they get the shaft, not much screen time dedicated to them. But hey, we got the fan favorite villains from the show on the big screen. Lord Zed, Rita, Goldar, and Mordant? Okay, this has confused me for the longest time, but for some reason they created this Mordant character for this movie and never bothered to explain why he is there with all the bad guys we know and love. Just for reference, he was never in the show and never appeared in any seasons of said show, not even in the comics. In an early draft, apparently he was Goldar's cousin visiting, but that was cut. Mordant, who is played by Martin G. Metcalf, basically fills the role of Squat and Babu as comic relief bad guys, even though Ivan Ooze himself is a comedic character. And Mordant has so few scenes and his design is lame and he's just not funny. Why they didn't bring Squat and Babu into this, I have no idea. They made great suits for everyone else. Speaking of which, why didn't they bring the new villain suits over to the show? I get not bringing the tough Ranger suits because of reasons we'll talk about, but the villain suits look great and those villains aren't really used in action scenes. Anyway, Zed gets rid of the guards, walks over to the egg, and releases Ivan Ooze. And for someone who is apparently ruling the world, he is incredibly underwhelming. He is played by Paul Freeman, a talented English actor, and this character is not that good. We'll get into it later, but this is disappointing as the guys Zordon and Zed both hyped up as being super dangerous. Ivan asks what he can do to repay Zed for freeing him, and Zed says he wants him to destroy Zordon and the Power Rangers. And Ivan freaks out when he hears Zordon's name. Zed, being a great boss, doesn't care about micromanagement, so he leaves Ivan as he smells teenagers. I'm not going to ask how he can remember what a teenager smells like. Said teenagers show up, however, as the Power Rangers. The Rangers say they'll send him back to prison, and I do admit he does have some funny lines, and states that Zordon uses kids to do work for him, but he has no interest in fighting the Rangers. Instead, he summons his Ooze monsters to fight, and they actually look pretty good. The Rangers fight in some unmorphed action, and what do you think happens? Great martial arts and one-liners from the Rangers. Although I could do without the cartoonish sound effects. The Rangers are outmatched though, which is why they morph to deal with the monsters in a pretty faithful morphing sequence. Now you may notice these suits are movie upgrades and not from the show. These suits are made of PVC and metal plating rather than the standard spandex. And they weighed up to 40 pounds. And they look really good. I mean, they must have been awful to work in, but they look amazing with the armored appearance and is not too bulky as to restrain their movements or look silly. And props to the stunt performers for making the fights look amazing in these suits when they had to work 10-hour shoot days. They were originally not going to have the iconic black sunglass visors so they could see the actors' eyes and expressions, but thankfully they realized that was a mistake. I mean, the Matrix is still awesome with the sunglasses. Also, Tommy's not the Green Ranger here, he's the White Ranger. It was a whole storyline in the show. This movie is also the very first instance of Power Rangers not using any footage from the Super Sentai. Everything here is original. Unfortunately, after they finish the morphing sequence, the monsters ran away and they have to find them. Back at the command center, Zordon is concerned because the Rangers failed to stop Ivan's escape, but Alpha says it's fine, no one can get in here without a power coin. That's when Ivan Ooze gets in without a power coin. I mean, between this and the Green Ranger Alpha, get some better security. Ivan is mad at Zordon for locking him up for 6,000 years, that Ivan used to be in command of an empire, and now he has nothing. He destroys the command center while telling some really bad jokes as the Rangers still look for the monsters. This is an advantage of the movie the show didn't have. They actually have some fights at night. In Sentai footage, it's almost always daytime in a big open area. Here we're in a confined dark space, slowly building up the inevitable clash. It's not dark for too long as apparently the movie Rangers have abilities like flashlight helmets and infrared scanning. They find the Ooze monsters eventually, and we get another great fight scene with some awesome wire work and martial arts. Shockingly, despite being made in the 90s, the fight scenes don't really have CGI. Yes, there is CGI, mostly for the Zords, but the fight scenes are really cool, especially when they punch the Ooze monsters so hard they explode in a gooey mess. We also get some one-off weapons as Billy has a grappling hook and Kimberly has a whip. The Rangers finish off the monsters as Tommy shows off his sword Saba can fly around and blast lasers from his eyes. After they win, however, their powers disappear disappear because of the command center being destroyed, and boy is it trashed. I thought the Green Ranger did a number on this place, but Ivan hasn't beat. You guys had the set for like 5 minutes and you already trashed it. Also, I should really start a counter for how many times the command center gets destroyed. It happens a lot. We then see Zordon inside of the tube in his elderly mortal form dying from being outside of his time warp. Now he's played by Nicholas Bell, an Australian actor who does a good job reflecting Zordon's speech patterns and has a decent makeup job. The Rangers want to get him back inside his tube, and I'm not sure how that worked in the show, but Zordon says it's in vain. The powers were destroyed with the chamber. The Power Rangers are no more. And somewhere the Arbiter is thinking, I'm going to steal that line. Kimberly says he can't die because he's been like a father to them all, but Zordon says they must stay strong. To be honest, this is a good scene, it just needed a bit more weight to it. Here's an idea of how this movie could have started. Have it be a monster attacking the town and the Power Rangers show up to fight them. The same opening as any episode of the show. They struggle for a bit until Zordon guides them through how to win the day, as he normally would. The Rangers thank Zordon for helping them, showing how important he is to the team, giving this moment of his impending death more weight. None of this extreme charity work or random kid characters. That's the big problem with this movie. The script has the potential to be really good, it just needed a few more rewrites to really make this click. Alpha shows up damaged and says there is a way to save Zordon. There are powers on the planet of Theodos that can restore the Power Rangers and Zordon. No one has ever come back because of how dangerous it is though, and Zordon doesn't have much time. Alpha says there is enough power to send them there, just not enough to get them back without the power. The Rangers agree and teleport away despite not having their abilities. And you see what I mean? This is all a great setup. The Rangers going on an epic quest to save their mentor despite the danger, saying even without powers they are still the Power Rangers. Meanwhile, Rita and Zed are upset that Ivan didn't kill the Rangers and let them teleport away to find new powers. Also, if you thought the command center got an upgrade, Rita's palace looks amazing. This whole thing is practical too, just great work. Ivan shows up and says that he is going to be their new leader. Zed tries to blast him, but since Ivan has main villain plot armor, he traps Zed and Rita into a snow globe. Yes, seriously. Ugh. What? Did you think the great villains from the show would be the villains of the movie? No, it's better to have one-off goop villain instead. Seriously though, why are they not used more in any capacity? You made these brand new costumes for not only Lord Zed and Rita, but for Goldar as well, and yet they don't have a fight or contribute to the plot after Ivan Ooze gets released. It's a bad sign when you realize you could have cut them out and changed nothing. Ivan says Goldar and the other ones serve him now as Ivan spits on the floor. Yes, seriously. To create another batch of minions, the Tengu Warriors. These guys were actually brought into the main series, but again, not the upgraded villain suits, and Ivan sends them after the Rangers. Hey Ooze, here's an idea. You could use your mind control goo you later use on the town on Rita and Zed. You know, the people who have conquered planet after planet and send them after the Power Rangers? Back with the Rangers, they make it to Theodos where they find the skeleton of a monster dead on the ground, as a mysterious cloaked figure watches them. Ivan, meanwhile, is working at a chemical plant, and he says he is going to mind control the population of Angel Grove, mainly the adults, into digging up his ectomorphicons. There is also another problem with this movie, and really parts of Season 2 of Mighty Morphin. When they replaced Jason, Zach, and Trini, they didn't give the 3 newbies personalities, just filling the roles their previous versions filled. Except they don't, they're just there. They get better in future seasons, but at the time in the show, as well as this movie, they don't have any story arcs or personalities or cool character moments. Same with Billy, who doesn't have any developments in this movie, aside from not needing glasses now. The only notable moment is when Kimberly is worried about Zordon, reflecting on the times he helped them in the past, and Tommy assuring her they'll save him and stop Ivan. Everybody should have some kind of story arc or development, or at least a cool moment, and it didn't need to be anything that amazing, just give them something. Putting aside character problems, this is actually what needed to happen in a Power Rangers movie. The Rangers going on a big grand adventure outside of Angel Grove, trying to get new powers to defeat the most powerful villain they have ever faced who had taken over Angel Grove. They are motivated to stop the villain, rescue their town, and save their mentor's life. Plus, there is a sense of grandeur to everything they did, going on the journey, the trials ahead of them, and the new powers bestowed upon them, like when Tommy first became the White Ranger. Anyways, the Rangers get attacked by the Tengu Warriors, and they have another great fight scene with impressive wire work, but without their powers, the Rangers are outmatched. Fortunately for them, they are rescued by the cloaked figure, who turns out to be this hot woman with a stick. She bashes the birds with said stick and does this whistling thing with them. I don't really get it, but the Tengus leave. She is in no mood to talk as she demands the Rangers go home, but they won't, even when she starts hitting them with a stick. They mention Zordon needs them and the woman backs off, introducing herself as Dulcia, a friend of Zordon and enemy of Ivan Ooze. She is played by Gabrielle Fitzpatrick, an Australian actress in her first film role. And she agrees to lead the Rangers to the new powers. Fun fact about Dulcia, originally it was going to be Catherine Sutherland playing her. You know, the future Pink Ranger stepping in for Kimberly after she left. The reason this didn't happen was the creators thought she was too young at the time for what was a wise mentor figure, a war veteran, and I think it was the right call. Back with Zordon and Alpha, Zordon is just the best as he tries to help out the Rangers even as he is dying. Alpha turns on the viewing globe to show how Ivan plans on mind controlling the town into his slaves. His plan is to dress up like a purple wizard, give his weird goop to kids, ew, on multiple levels, and hope that the parents touch said goop, which will mind control them. That is incredibly gross, stupid, and really dependent on the parents touching the stuff, when I can assure you no adult would ever touch that. And yet it somehow works as Fred, the nothing character you haven't seen for 40 minutes, leaves the ooze on his table where his dad touches it for no reason, and is mind controlled with the rest of the town. Back with the good part of the movie, the Rangers follow Dulcia through the mountain ranges of Australia, Theados, until they reach the ancient ruins of the Ninjeti Temple. Dulcia says there is a monolith in the jungle guarded by monsters and no one has survived, but says they can do it if Zordon believes in them. She conducts a ceremony to give the Rangers an edge in the fight, ninja powers derived from their ancient animal spirits, along with spiffy new ninja costumes. Yeah, the yellow will do great at blending into the environment. You know, if they need to hide on top of a school bus. In all seriousness, the suits do look pretty good. The film was released between seasons 2 and 3 of Mighty Morphin, since Lord Zed and Rita are together, meaning this is another take on the ninja quest from the show. This means this movie is not canon given all the different looks of everyone. And we get Dudley Do-Right in the show instead of Dulcia. The Rangers get all their animal spirits and everyone is happy with their animals, aside from Adam, who is upset he got stuck with the frog. Fun fact, Johnny Young Bosch said in an interview that the scene with him being disappointed about getting the frog was his idea. And true, everyone else gets some cool adjective or description for their animal, and all Adam gets is Dulcia flirting with him. Which is not the worst thing in the world. Also, in those fight scenes with the heavy Ranger suits, that was actually Johnny. Yeah, his stunt double was injured at the time, so he did the fighting himself. Talk about awesome. Same with JDF, he did a lot of his own stunts in this movie. That's why they're the best. Dulcia wishes them good luck, but says she can't go past here or else she will age rapidly like Zordon, and then she transforms into an owl for some reason. Back with the lackluster Fred plot, Fred looks for his dad as Ivan is using his slaves to dig up the ectomorphicons. The Tengu warriors come back and report they failed as Dulcia stops them. We learn she is on Ivan's hate list with Zordon and he destroys the Tengus for failing. Fred meanwhile snuck into the dig site and found his mind-controlled dad but can't do anything with the villains around. We also get our first look at the ectomorphicons, Hornator and Scorpitron. The Rangers head out into the jungle, passing by even more bones from those who came before, and again, this is all practical. No CGI here, even during the fight scene as the skeleton comes to life. It's all pretty impressive as we see the monsters moving around. Tommy manages to separate his head from his body though. Back with Ivan, his slaves dug up the ectomorphicons and finished putting the robots together as we finally get a good look at them. While I like the designs, they are bad CGI. The technology wasn't there yet and the low budget did not help. They probably should have just used suits. Ivan tells the slaves to take themselves and leap to their doom for no reason. Yeah, here's the biggest problem with this movie that I've been building up to. The main villain, Ivan Ooze. He does not work. His design, writing, and performance are all wrong for what this character needs to be. He should be an intimidating force, the biggest threat the Rangers have ever faced, and the story reflects that. This villain is so powerful, he can create minions on command, mind control an entire legion of people, blast everyone with his insane powers, takes down Zordon and the command center, cuts the Rangers off from their powers, commands 2 massive robot monsters, and is so powerful he defeated and captured the main villains of Rita and Zed. Zed, who dwarfs Tommy, the strongest of the Power Rangers. And the story of his rise and defeat is obvious. He's too powerful, more accurately a big fish in a small pond. Ivan's so strong he's used to being superior to those around him. That is his strength and weakness. Ivan wastes perfectly good resources like his slaves, his monsters, and even not mind controlling Rita and Zed because he can't fathom the idea someone could overpower or defeat him. He's arrogant and careless. That is how the Rangers beat him in the end, because he didn't take them seriously. He makes mistakes like that later in the movie, as he leans back while Scorpitron gets destroyed instead of jumping in right away. The same thing happened with Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. There is no scenario where Bill, with his godlike powers, would lose, and he did, because he underestimated his enemies. The problem for Ivan Ooze is that he's an idiot, his appearance is very generic, and his characterization is bad. It's like they got a really cool actor who can bring an intimidating force like Josh Brolin or something, but they mixed him up with the guy auditioning for a suburban dad on a sitcom, and just said, it's too late, let's just keep him. He cracks bad jokes and is really like a prototype Divatox, a bad comic relief villain when he needed to be an intimidating force for the Rangers' first movie, the biggest threat they have ever faced. When he shows off how strong he is, I'm not impressed. I'm shocked he could do something like that. Now, I understand this movie is clearly trying to appeal to kids, but kids aren't stupid, and the writing for this movie was not good enough to balance the comedic, threatening villain. In fact, the writing in the show was good enough, since Zed and Rita are great comic relief, intimidating villains, so why not bring some of that to Ivan? Fun fact for you though, in order for the purple tongue to match the purple body, Freeman drank blank currant juice, held it in his mouth, and spit it out before each take. I do appreciate that commitment, but yeah, Ivan Ooze is the main thing that drags this movie down. But whatever, back with the Rangers, they finally make it to the monolith, but there was one challenge left for them to conquer: Disney's gargoyles. No, actually, they are cool looking stone monsters that they have to fight. And par for the course, the fighting is spectacular, especially with the ninja martial arts. They're jumping all over the place, smashing rock monsters, slicing them in half, and pushing them into boiling water. It's Power Rangers awesomeness. I wonder why other monsters in Alien struggled. If all you had to deal with were bone monsters and some rock guys, this doesn't seem impossible. I mean, these are human ninjas and they did fine. But regardless, they unlock the doors and we get this pretty cool moment of the powers being unveiled. We see the sacred animals dive out of the coin thing and swirl around the Rangers, restoring their powers. Although they still have the dinosaur helmets, even though they have new animals. None of that matters though, because the Rangers teleport back to Angel Grove where the Ectomorphicons are rampaging downtown. They summon the new Zords, and yeah, the CGI doesn't look great given the small budget and the technology was still brand new. Fun fact for you though, I think this might be the first instance of CGI Zords in both Power Rangers and Super Sentai. So back with the unnecessary plot, Fred found the kids of Angel Grove hanging out in this random 50s diner playing with the Ooze, and okay, I know stuff like Nickelodeon Goop was popular back in the day, but this is ridiculous. Everyone is going nuts over this stuff. They're putting it in the blenders, drinking purple shakes, and everyone is wearing purple. These kids should be freaking out. Their parents have been missing for like 2 days, and they're partying? Also, this was a golden opportunity to introduce the Juice Bar and Ernie, two very important parts of the show that are bizarrely absent from the movie. They brought over everything else, so it's weird. Fred recruits the kids of Angel Grove, including Bulk and Skull, into helping him save the parents, and this is when I realized what could have saved this subplot. While I don't like the Fred stuff, it is interesting to see an on-the-ground perspective as Ivan takes the parents and his monsters, as well as give the audience breaks from the Power Rangers quest. So instead of focusing on some random kid, let's have Bulk and Skull be the ones investigating Ivan Ooze. Have them be the ones who gather up the kids and save the parents as reluctant heroes in the absence of the Power Rangers. We were only a few episodes away from them becoming good guys as police recruits, so why not kick it off here? That way we get more screen time with them and their great comedy, and you still have the kids saving the day thing. Now with the Ranger plot, the Rangers start using their individual Zords to fight off the Ectomorphicons. While they don't look amazing anymore, I am happy we get some individual Zord battling. Too often in the main show, they just transform into the Megazord right away, and even though the Zords don't look realistic, the fight itself is pretty cool. If you're wondering, by the way, these Zords were from the Sentai Kaku Ranger, which would be Frankenstein with Mighty Morphing in Season 3. They finally managed to destroy Scorpotron, leaving Hornator on his own as the rest of the Rangers close in. Ivan Ooze is mad the Rangers destroyed his Ectomorphicon, and by using the worst effect ever, he merges with Hornator and grabs a nearby observatory as his bow staff. In response, they form the Ninja Megazord, and while in the Sentai it looks good, here it hasn't aged well. Okay, this I don't understand. Why not replace them with real suits that look better? We've already seen how amazing the other suits look, like Zed for example. While Ivan was smashing around, he also destroyed the monorail track that Fred and the kids were on, so Tommy goes to put his Zord on the tracks to save them. Even though that never would have worked, but whatever. Ivan gets the upper hand, tossing the Megazord around, but Tommy joins up and they form the Ninja Mega Falcon Zord, the most awesome Megazord name yet. They fly off with Ivan chasing them while Fred and the kids show up to stop the parents from walking off a cliff. The kids try to hold their parents back, but they're kids, so Fred, Bulk, and Skull get a power hose to spray the parents back. There is no way that would work and would probably shoot their skin off, but whatever. The Rangers' plan to defeat Ivan is to push him into the comet briefly mentioned at the start. You want to know how it's done? Aisha breaks some protective glass that says for emergencies only, presses the button, and it was to knee Ivan in the crotch, which sent him towards the comet. Like I said in the Green Ranger saga, if this was in Power Rangers, you wouldn't be able to get away with how silly that is. That is a fitting end to the Ivan Ooze character, however, kneed in the crotch before blowing up. Anyways, with his death, the parents regain their minds and Fred reunites with his dad, which is a pretty nice moment, I will admit. The Rangers go back to the command center where unfortunately Zordon is dead. Tommy says that maybe with the great power they could help him. They circle around, put their hands up, and using their new powers, the command center gets repaired, reviving Zordon. And it's just nice. At a party the town is throwing for surviving the attack, Bulk and Skull are telling everybody about how they stopped Ivan while Fred joins with the Rangers. The Rangers say he did a great job standing up to evil and even say maybe Fred will be a Ranger someday. Maybe the Silver or Gold Ranger. Yeah, no. Well, I mean, there would be a Gold and Silver Ranger, but not Fred. Also, with the villains Rita and Zed, they break out to maybe say they'll be in the next movie. Well, they are, sort of. The movie ends with all the characters enjoying some fireworks that thank the Power Rangers for their bravery, while the Van Halen song Dreams plays, rolling the credits. And you know what? I just got a wave of nostalgia from hearing that song. Alright, the movie's over. It's kind of a mixed bag, but how does it rank? Characterization, I'm giving a 0. I mean, Mighty Morphin was never huge on developing their characters, but at least in the show we saw their personalities and there was a little development here and there. This movie though, everyone exists for action scenes and one-liners. It is not great. Plus, Ivan was very disappointing as the first movie villain. The story's getting a 4. Yeah, I thought the story setup was great. The Rangers facing off against the most dangerous opponent ever, and they have to go on this epic quest to save their town and beloved mentor. Is what the movie needed to be. The only reason it doesn't get a 5, or even a 6, honestly, is because of the Fred plot, which could have been cut out. Entertainment, I'm giving a 5. This whole film is really fun to watch, mostly because of the fights. Yeah, the Zord fights weren't great, but the practical fights are amazing and well worth sitting through all the other nonsense. Plus, the film is filled with Power Rangers charms, so I can't hate it. Importance gets a 3. Technically, you don't need to watch this since it's not canon, but I think because it's the first Power Rangers movie, it's well worth a watch. Even with all my nitpicks, I think this movie is worth a watch if you're a Power Rangers fan. The script needed some work, and I feel like the villain needed more depth, but it has likable characters, great action, and it's just really cool to see the Power Rangers on the big screen at that stage in their development. They weren't the timeless cult hit they are today with everyone growing up with some form of the Power Rangers. They were still a popular TV show with little money at a brand new production studio. Seeing their rise and success just makes you happy. This is a good film. I just think an amazing movie is trying to get out, but things are holding it down. Regardless, I think this movie is well worth your time. That's all I have for you today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later.